Welcome to East Alabama Today, featuring topics, events, and interesting people from all over East Alabama. Hosted by Carl Brady. Now, let's get right to the show. Here's Carl Brady.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into East Alabama Today. I'm Carl Brady. Thanks for being with us on our program. A special edition of the show today coming for you, and we'll give you all the details on that coming up in a moment. But first, let me give you the details about how to get in touch with me. If you have an idea for the show, you know we want to hear from you, so send me an email, cbrady@tv24.tv. That's the best way to get in touch with me. If you have something going on in your community or in your neighborhood that you want us to help you spread the word on, fairs, festivals, special events, things that are happening in your church, your school, your civic club, your local organization, in any of our 9-county coverage area. You guys are our eyes and ears out on the street. You're how we know what's going on out in the community. So feel free to share that information with me. Again, it's cbrady@tv24.tv. We also want to know about the interesting people who live in your community. Maybe you know someone who's a writer, an artist, or a musician. Maybe they have an odd or an interesting hobby and you think they'd be a great guest for the show. That's exactly who we're looking for. So send me information on them as well. Again, to cbrady@tv24.tv. And you can also see the show on demand on the internet. Go to our website, tv24.tv. Go to the on-demand section, click on East Alabama Today, and there you'll be able to go and catch up on any of our previous shows over the last few weeks at your convenience, whenever you'd like to watch it on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. Again, that's tv24.tv. We'll be back with more East Alabama Today in just a moment. Hello, everyone. Welcome into East Alabama Today. It says, as I said earlier, it is a special edition of our show. It's the political season here in 2016. We have the primaries here in the state of Alabama coming up on March 1st. We'll have general elections coming up in November. There are some local races here in East Alabama today on the ballots. And my guest today is 7th Judicial Circuit Judge Debra Jones. Debra, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Carl. It's very good to see you and be on your show. I'm a big fan of your show.
Well,
it's very informative for our local viewers.
And happy to have you on here with us today. You first elected as a circuit judge in 2010. You served 6-year rotations, and so right. Here you are in 2016, up for re-election for the 7th Circuit. So.
Yes, and our circuit covers Calhoun and Cleburne counties. And my assignment is the civil and criminal jury trials. So basically what I do every day is I handle the jury work, and then when we're not actually in a trial, we're getting ready for those trials. And a lot of what I do is I take guilty pleas on the criminal cases. And this particular week, all day Monday and Tuesday, I took guilty pleas as fast as I could speak from 8:30 until 4:30 because we have a grand jury coming in soon, and the people that wanted to plead guilty before the grand jury met, we went ahead and got those cases out of the way. So That's what I do every day.
It's interesting being on the inside of the judicial system and seeing how things work and run and being a part of that, I'm sure.
It is. Our courthouse is unique. We have a sense of family. All of our judges get along and support each other. We have a very good working relationship with our local defense bar and particularly our law enforcement. So we work well together, we support each other, and it makes everything run much more smoothly because the facts of the cases are difficult enough. So it's nice when you can all work well together.
You, in addition to your 6 years on the bench, you've been an attorney for a long time leading up to that. So talk about your experience.
Well, when I first graduated from law school, I began employment as assistant district attorney with our district attorney at the time, and that was Bob Field. And so I worked 2 years with him, and then his chief deputy assistant, Joe Hubbard, became the DA, and then I worked 2 years with Joe. So after 4 years in the DA's office, I had 2 young babies, and I was pregnant. And so I began my own practice, and I was an attorney in Anniston, downtown Noble Street, until I took the bench in 2010. So altogether, legal experience, I believe I've been a lawyer and a judge 26 years.
How much does you have to have the legal knowledge and the legal experience, and you have to have the ability to turn around to the book you need and know the statutes and the laws and the things that you base your decisions on. But talk about that from a personal level as well. You got to know more than just the law. Well,
that's true. Sitting on the bench, my years of practicing as an attorney, they have served me well. I would be in the middle of a trial, and I knew the answer to an objection or a procedural problem, and I don't know where I knew the answer. I just knew it from doing it. And if there is a problem that arises and you do not know the law, then you have to stop and take a break and know where to go find the law, because you have to be right. It's very important, and there's no room for error. And the appellate courts scrutinize what we do in the trial level. Now, anything that I do would be appealed to either the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals or the Alabama Court of Civil Appeals. Some things are appealed directly to the Supreme Court. So it's important that a judge have the training, the knowledge, and the experience. And I really brought a lot of that to the bench because I had been a prosecutor, I had been a defense attorney, I had a very good general practice, I had done appellate work where I had gone to Montgomery and argued before the appellate courts. I had a lot of probate experience, and I dealt a lot with children in foster homes and their parents through the dependency court in juvenile court. So I had a really good background, and when I came to the bench, I brought all that with me. And a lot of what a judge does is basically manages the courtroom, the lawyers, the parties, the jurors. So a lot of people skills are necessary. You have to get along with everyone. You have to coordinate schedules. And a lot of our jurors have difficulties, and you have to accommodate things. We were talking before the show about deafness. And when my mother is deaf, so I'm very aware of problems that arise. And also my husband is deaf. He has one ear that is deaf. And before we begin our trials, the jurors will come into the large courtroom, and we will divide them into panels to go with the separate judges to hear the separate trials. You know, we all three jury judges hold court at the same time when we bring in the jury. And before we begin, the jurors sometimes will come up and let me know that they have a hearing problem or a back problem, or they're on some sort of medication. And so we have to go through a qualifying process. So a lot of people skills are involved from the beginning until the end.
Absolutely. And the main job as a judge, people see the judge as the person who makes rulings, or the person who enforces laws and those kind of things. But really, a judge's main job, as you said, is being the moderator in the courtroom and ensuring, as the Constitution allows everyone, the guarantee of a fair and impartial hearing of their peers. And that's the judge's main job, is to make sure that that goes smoothly.
That's absolutely correct. It's so important to make sure that everyone is treated fairly, with dignity and respect, and that the law is strictly applied. You have to follow the law. You have to go through the entire process. You know, a lot of people say, well, that person's guilty. Why do you have to have a trial? Because they have constitutional rights, and there is a process to reach a verdict one way or the other, and the process has to be followed. It's important. You would want a jury of your peers to hear the evidence if you ever needed them. So we follow the same rules in every single case, regardless of who the person is, or who the person's attorney is, or the color of their skin, or how much money they have or do not have, or their position in life. That's why Lady Justice wears the blindfold. Can't see any of that. You have to be totally fair and impartial. And that's what we do every day.
What's your favorite part?
I love the jury trials. I love the jury trials. I love seeing it. I love being involved in it. I love seeing the citizens become the government. A jury is the decider of the facts. They hear all of the evidence and they determine what the facts are. The judge determines what the law is, and then I instruct the jury so they know how to decide the facts. But I love seeing our citizens make the call. Now, 2 weeks ago, I had a very long trial. It was a week long. It was a wrongful death, medical malpractice. We had 4 surgeons, very skilled experts, come in to testify, and the jury listened to all of the evidence. They took all these notes, and they really did their job, and we were very proud that, you know, the citizens can decide those issues. In other countries, the government does it.
Right.
So it's very important that we get to rise up and be the government.
I always thought juries should have the opportunity to ask questions and do their own cross-examinations. Sometimes
Now, some states do allow that.
It would probably, the trial would last forever in that case. But I've always thought, you know, I wonder if somebody asked this question, what would happen?
Well, usually the lawyers, between the direct and cross-examination, ask all of the questions that the jury really needs answered.
Right.
And if the jury does have a question, they can raise their hand and write it down and give it to the bailiff, and I will let the lawyers know, and then the lawyers will go back and ask the question if it's a question that can be asked.
Right.
You know, we have rules. We can't just ask every question that pops into your head. You have to follow the rules of evidence. So that's why you know, we have to be careful. We can't just let any question come out there.
Right.
So.
Well, we need to take a commercial break, so let's do that, and we'll be back in just a moment and continue our visit with Judge Debra Jones, candidate for re-election for the Circuit Court Judge in Cleburne and Calhoun County. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back in to East Alabama Today. Again, I'm Carl O'Brady, and my guest is Circuit Judge Debra Jones from the 7th Judicial Circuit that covers Cleburne and Calhoun County, up for re-election and subject to the primary coming up on March 1st. Here all over East Alabama and all over the state of Alabama. Very early primaries nowadays. Do we know?
Yes.
We know that state government officials did that to try to give us a little more relevance in the presidential and national electoral scene. But how does that affect you as a local candidate?
Well, a lot of people are unaware that in 2 weeks we'll be going to the polls, and I run into that as I'm going out door to door and speaking with business owners and people in the community. They're surprised. Oh, is it March? You know, it's very quick, and I go through and explain what you just said. Normally, our primary is in June. And it's moved up to March because we are joining with a lot of southern states, and they're calling it the SEC primary, so that our states and our southern values can have basically more influence when we join together in numbers.
Trying to get up there with the importance of Iowa and New Hampshire, these early primaries.
The outcome of the presidential primaries.
Exactly.
Yes, and so I'm for that. I like that because I like our southern values, and I think they're important, and they count, and they should count.
Right.
But as a local candidate, we do find that people are unprepared and unaware. So I am trying to encourage everyone to spread the word that March 1 is around the corner and go to the polls, because it'll happen, you'll miss it, and then you will realize, oh, was it voting day?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get back to your re-election campaign. Over the 6 years that you have been a judge, there have been some changes.
Yes.
The state and locally, you've gone to an all digital records system through the Alicourt website and digital filing and things like that. You helped implement that and get that moving forward and in place in Calhoun County. So talk about that, and with the challenges, the budgetary challenges in the state court system, the circuit clerk's offices, and many are operating at a major deficit as far as the number of people they need. So this digital system has kind of helped that.
It did. Now, when I took office on January of 2011, the system was transitioning. It was all voluntary. People were trying it out. Well, I knew that the mandatory order was coming, and it was coming within the next 12 months. So instead of learning the paper system and the old system, and then learning the new system, I just went ahead and required everything to be through the AlaCourt because I saw that it was coming. And the Supreme Court did issue a mandate within 12 months that everything had to be electronically filed. Now, a lot of people didn't like that, but what happened was shortly after that, with the state financial crisis and the budget cuts, all of the circuit clerks throughout the state had a huge cut. And so our circuit lost 45% of the personnel.
Wow.
So when we went to electronic filing, then it became more popular because it was out of a necessity. You know, the crisis made us efficient. So what happened was we could do more work with less people by using the electronic filing. Now, when I first took the bench, files had to be hand carried to my office, and then I wrote out multiple pages of the order for where people would go and what their sentence was and their court costs. And then all of those paper files would be physically transported back upstairs to the different, offices. And then they would wait until that agency got caught up and could handle my work, and then they would send it somewhere else. Well, now, long story short, we are sitting in the courtroom, and as I am taking someone's guilty plea, my assistant is issuing an order in the courtroom electronically that tells the number of years someone has to serve, the court cost, all the different things that have to be done, restitution to the victims, drug classes, court referral, things of that sort. Immediately after I complete what I have to do, an order is entered with one click of the button electronically, and the order goes to the attorneys. So before they get back to their office, the order is waiting on them. It goes to the clerk's office, to the probation office, and to the sheriff's office. So we are much more efficient and accurate. And now the state has gone to this, so we are able to handle that crisis. And then one of the other things that was a big change is sentencing guidelines became mandatory. We were operating under a voluntary system, and then the law required that we apply the guidelines. Now, when Charlie Graddick was the district attorney, I was the attorney general. I was the assistant district attorney. So the law, as I knew it, was 3 strikes, you're out. Third felony, the 4th one, you were going to spend a long amount of time. So we had habitual felony offender. Now, for example, if you had a drug case, that would be a possession of pot, would be a year and a day up to 10 years. If you had 2 or more, if you had 3 or more prior felonies, that Class C felony all of a sudden became a 15-year minimum up to 99 years or life. Well, you had ranges of punishment from the different 67 counties, anywhere from 15 to 99 on pot. So the sentencing guidelines were an average of what all of the judges did in the county for people of similarly situated crimes with similarly situated backgrounds to make the sentencing more uniform. And what that did basically was lower the prison population. So that became one of the things that we had to do.
Even with the mandatory guidelines like that, do you still have any discretion? We talked off the air a little bit about, sometimes when you see a defendant in the courtroom, sending this person to state prison for 10 years is not what is best for them, that they need help more than they need incarceration. And do you still have any kind of leeway in some of those sentencing?
Well, we did. Now, February 1st, we have another change.
Yeah.
The law has changed so that now we have what's called Class D felonies, and that came about from the prison reform that the governor, set up a task force and the legislators passed. And that again is due to prison overcrowding. So now all Class D felonies, automatic probation. So a Class D felony is the possession of a drug, a theft, such as your credit card or your identity, or burglaries that do not involve weapons or people's homes. So these thefts and possessions of drugs are all going to be automatic probation, even if this is your 4th felony or your 10th felony. So that part does remove discretion from the court. Now, normally what we do is if you're already on probation, say you have a problem with meth, you're on probation for meth, and I tell you from the bench, I'm going to give you a drug test regularly. If you fail for meth, I'm going to revoke your probation and send you to prison. Well, now all of that has changed. If you test positive, then the only enforcement I can have is I will send the person to the county jail for 45 days, and then I will put them back out and we will try again. So you're going to have a lot of people on probation for stealing, for thefts, for drugs that will continue to repeat that conduct, and the only thing the court can do is put them in county jail for 45-day stints. And we can do this 3 times before we're then able to take away their probation and send them to prison. Now, the reason for that is Alabama is at 200% capacity for every 100 inmates that we have a facility for. So if we have room for 100 people, we have 200 crammed into that location.
In that space,
In that space. And the federal the federal courts will require us to release inmates to come into the proper, housing. So we had to do something. So the state legislature passed this to send it back down to the local level. So what's going to happen, honestly, is that I will have a state inmate who is in the custody of DOC on probation. I will have that person fail a drug test. They will be in my county jail. If they need medical attention, say they have a heart attack or a stroke, we will pay for the state inmate through our county commission in our county jail. So everything is going to back up, and the cost will come from the state level back down to the local level. But if we don't do something, the federal government will come in and just require us to let people go. So we had to do something. So while I'm very disappointed that I do not have discretion, I know why it happened, and we're just going to continue to handle the crisis as we have the clerks being cut and the sentencing guidelines, and we're just going to continue to try to serve our citizens. Now, the #1 function of government is to keep the citizens safe. And so now with this prison reform, what we will do, we will put, for every person that I have to put on probation, I will require 3 to 4 recovery meetings a week. I will sentence them to 100 hours of community service. And so in our community in Calhoun County, we have 3 locations where community service is provided. One is the landfill, and then the other is the litter patrol, where you would pick up trash off of the street, and that's a big service to our community. And the other is the Humane Society, taking care of the animals. And so for every hour that someone works, even though they're court ordered, I will deduct from their fine and cost the rate of minimum wage. I mean, we won't have money to give to them for them to pay, but we will offset it.
They can get credit toward their retribution.
So it helps them, and it helps the community. And my philosophy is, if we can just keep people as busy as we can, then hopefully they will not have time to get into trouble and do things that they're not supposed to do. But it would not be my first choice, but it is how we're going to handle it. So.
Well, all right, we need another commercial break, so we'll take that and come back with a quick wrap-up in just a moment. So stay with us as we continue with East Alabama Today. Welcome back for our final segment of East Alabama Today. Again, our special edition, our special guest is Judge Debra Jones from Cleburne and Calhoun County, the 7th Judicial Circuit, and up for re-election in the March 1st primary that will be held throughout the state of Alabama. And Debra, I'll let you look at your camera and just talk directly to the voters for a second.
Thank you very much. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve you these last 6 years. I've enjoyed it very much, and I would love to continue to serve you. I ask for your vote and your support on March the 1st, 2016, and that's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So please bring your friends and get the word out. March the 1st. Thank you.
Okay, Debra, thank you very much for being here with us.
Appreciate it so much.
Good luck in the primary, and folks, thank you for being with us as well here on East Alabama Today. We'll see you next time.